Chris Bishop.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Pleasure to take a brief call on this very important bill, the third reading of this great bill. And I want to start my remarks to the House, which are actually my first substantive comments in the House on a bill. I spoke previously on the Prime Minister's statement last week, but this is the first bill that I've had the chance to speak on in this year of Parliament. I want to start my remarks by just briefly rebutting some of what Mr Nash said. So he started his remarks by talking about the fact that the Finance and Expenditure Committee has considered 8 or 9 tax bills this term, and that is true. We've had a heavy workload, one that I have to say government members on the Finance and Expenditure Committee relish, Mr Nash. We relish the chance to consider these important bills, and I think it'll be fair to say, there's a bit of hyperbole from Mr Nash. Now, look, he's not a man traditionally given to hyperbole. He's usually a very sober and sage individual who makes good remarks. But that was hyperbole, because some of the bills that we've been considering on FEC are to do with business transformation. And actually everyone in the Parliament, I think, recognises that modernising the inland revenue systems, the computer system and IT systems that underpin our tax system is really important. And we'll have a debate around the cost, and we scrutinise those things on FEC all the time. But actually everyone recognises that's important, and that requires legislative change. So it's a little bit rich, I think, to complain about the number of tax bills when some of them have been to do with business transformation. And the second thing is that, and this is particularly apposite when it comes to this bill, is that we have been implementing the responses to the Schuin inquiry into foreign trust and disclosure rules. And it's the Labor Party, and members opposite that spent a lot of 2016 talking about how we needed an inquiry, and when there was an inquiry, we're now implementing the legislation in response to that inquiry, and then Mr Nash gets up and complains about that. So I think it's a little rich to complain about the number of bills. And then he said this is a farce. You know, the tax process in New Zealand is a farce. But actually, we have a good process in New Zealand. We have the generic tax policy process, where things are consulted on in advance, where the practitioners and the tax lawyers and those people out there, including some friends of mine, poor them, who are able to participate in that process. And then we get the legislation, then we get it coming before the Select Committee. So we have a very good process in New Zealand. I acknowledge what Mr Nash was saying about the volume of legislation. Probably it's a little bit higher in this term of Parliament than in the past, but that is a function, as I said, of a few things that I've already made mention of. Sir, I want to briefly mention one thing in my speech, and that was the debate that we had on the Finance and Expenditure Committee around this SOP, which was the SOP number 190. And there was a lot of concern raised at the Select Committee and also within the public comment around this bill, around the scope of what's known as the Henry VIII powers that has been given to the government by this bill. And fair to say, and Fletcher Tapatoe says, you know, you were strong on that point. And I do have to say that we put the officials at Select Committee under some scrutiny, because it's a big thing for Parliament to delegate essentially the power to change the law by fiat. It's a big thing for the Parliament to do that, to delegate that authority to the executive. And some of the excuses or some of the reasons given for that, we did not find, and I think I can speak for the entirety of the FEC committee on this. Some of the excuses or reasons given, we did not find justifiable. That Parliament should delegate to the executive the power to change the law during the period of time in which the IRD was moving from one type of computer system to another type of computer system. And so we put some of those changes under some pretty heavy scrutiny, and we made some changes to it as a result of that. So we limited the regulation power to administration issues arising from the transition between the old and the new system. We made sure that those transitional regulations couldn't increase taxpayer liability. We excluded certain provisions of the Tax Administration Act. The original drafting of that SOP was extremely broad, giving the executive enormous powers through the Tax Administration Act, or the power to change the Tax Administration Act. And we made sure that those regulations couldn't remove or diminish the rights of a taxpayer. And so that fettering of the very large discretion given to the executive, I think, has made the bill a better bill. Just finally, sir, this bill does implement the tax package announced by the government through Budget 2016, the SME tax package, the small and medium-sized enterprise tax package. And Mr Nash was going on about the provisional tax and the bane of his life when he was operating that small business in the Bay. And it is true to say that all members of the House probably over the years have had gripes from the SME sector in particular about the payment of provisional tax. And I think we should all welcome the fact that as a result of business transformation and the advancement in technology, but also as a result of the legislative changes given effect to by this bill, life will be considerably easier, and that is something to be applauded and welcomed and is implemented by this legislation. Thank you.